Ladies, gentlemen, groups in between, welcome one, welcome all to episode 125, the fifth Drunkcast. We're here, we're ready to party, it's crazy, the season's over. We are straight up, we're just going to give you a sick show. I mean, honestly, there are going to be, hold on, there'll be a dud. Come on, it's a dud. Hey, we're going to give you some fireworks, folks. It's going to be a tremendous show. We've got the quadfecta, the four, the powerful four, and let's just get into introducing them. Alfie, Culshaw, in the cut, the man, the myth, the legend. He was once known as the lovely London local lad. Now he's a bumptious Brighton boy. I'm not entirely sure what he is right now, to be completely honest with you, but here he is, Alfie Culshaw.
What are you saying, lads? Yeah, I'm decent. But I'm actually better than decent today. I'm gassed, I'm giddy, as you can probably tell. I'm excited for this. It's Drunkcast 5. We're going to be reliving the season that we just had, all the highs and the lows. It's going to be exciting. And obviously we're going to be doing it with some beverages, which I'll bring out when Danny calls me to. But yeah, what a time to be alive. I think this will be the best Drunkcast. I'm calling it now. I've just got a feeling. I'd say at the moment, Drunkcast 3 is probably the most elite one. Has the most iconic moment with Rob. Sorry, Mac, I know you weren't there, but it has Rob throwing up in a draw. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it. I know we're talking about 2020, but the last half an hour is basically just a comedy show. So it's worth listening to. One was decent. I listened to a bit back earlier. It was a bit tame though. 2 was a bit better because we were all so happy that football was coming back. Project Restart. 3 was insane, and 4 was pretty fucking good. 4 had visuals for the first time as well, so go back and watch that. As much as there were technical difficulties, it was still insane. And yeah, I'm gassed. I decided we all got our Arsenal shirts on. This is the first season ever I got all 3 shirts. I got the yellow one that Mac's wearing when it came out, and then I got this when it came out because they were so good. I didn't plan on getting the home one, but my friend works at JD, so he got me a discount, so I got it for 20 quid a couple of weeks ago. It's now old, obviously. But yeah, what are you saying, Danny?
Just the intro, my dude. Just the intro. And I'm going to be introducing these 2 other lovely boys as well. I figure I'll go by order of just who got into the podcast sphere. So we'll just go right to Rob, Bob, Bertha, the man that has once thrown up in a drawer, once that we know of. Now, he may have done this multiple times. We don't know. But Rob, welcome, man. Glad to have you on the 5th Drunkcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure, a real pleasure to be back on the show with you boys. I think the first few Drunkcasts we were just drinking for the sake of drinking on a podcast, and nice to get drunk with you boys always. But now it's, as you say, something of a tradition, and I am absolutely delighted to be on the podcast yet again. It's actually been a while since we've recorded a podcast in itself, so aren't you all lucky, you beautiful viewers? Abhay Warrior, I'm talking to you. Looking forward to getting into the show, and back to you, Danny.
Good stuff, man. I can just tell, I can smell the excitement. We're all ready to get after it, man. It's going to be fun. The person I'm probably most excited for this one, though, is my celebrity friend, my fellow American, who may or may not be in a public space. We can't say due to legal reasons. But Mac, you may be the first ever We Love You Arsenal Productions member to get arrested live on the air. Or you may not be. We don't know. Mac, the celebrity, what's up, my dude?
I hope not. So quick story. I'm working at my college over the summer, and we had a massive power outage. There were a couple of tornadoes in Ohio, and one of the only buildings with power in like the county right now is our library. So I'm in like a film editing suite. You'll see people behind me all the time because literally every room around me is like a classroom that's being used or an executive office. And I'm just going to be drinking on a podcast with the boys. So, it's a pretty good time. But Daniel, I'm doing all right. I'm having a great time. It is a pleasure to be here. And I want to shout out a quick statistic. This is our Arsenal Canon Podcast 125 and our 5th Drunkcast, which gives us an XDC, an expected Drunkcast, of 1 in every 25, which I think is pretty impressive. Can you tell that we're all, of a uni age? But yeah, again, just a pleasure. Can't wait to crack on and to get drinking with you boys. I have so many anecdotes planned. That's about it.
Right on. We love an anecdote, and we hope that we will serve as the antidote for your miserable lives on this thrill ride of a podcast. I guess this is the part where we get into what we're drinking. So let's go to the same order. Let's start off with the Bumptious Brighton Boy, Alfie Culshaw. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with the way we do things, basically the dynamic captain-wise.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah. Hold on. I'll pass it over to you. Watch this. This is going to be a good pass. No, you're good. Alfie smells the blood in the water, basically. He understands that I am Aubameyang, and I'm not actually a captain. So what basically happens is Mr. Granit Xhaka, or Alfie Culshaw, is the captain, but I'm kind of just like the figurehead that, will thrive in chaos or whatever. So he's going to be the guy that actually gets us through this show, because if it was up to me, we would all die together, and he'll take good care of us. Don't you worry. He's our designated driver. That's what we call him. And so Alfie, I guess without further ado, why don't you go ahead and walk us through. You could start kind of taking the reins is what I mean, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, with that captain thing, I like that. Don't know about how I feel being compared to Granit Xhaka, but I'll take it. He's a good player.
I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah, he's not for everyone, so I'll take it. Yeah, I was going to say, if you are new to this channel, or you've been watching the transfer videos recently, and you're wondering why the fuck is this ginger guy presenting and not me, who's carried this show a bit, the transfer show anyway. Yeah, I forgot about the arrogant narrative around me, so I'm just going to play up to it now massively in this podcast. Yeah, Danny is the founder of the podcast, so he is the presenter. But I wear the invisible armband, as he basically just said there. Sorry,
we got the podcast got bought by We Love You Arsenal Productions, essentially, and I got brought in with them. They're like, this freaking weirdo, but I guess we'll take him off the streets.
Pretty much. I mean, if you're listening and not watching, it is quite peak, because when I said this recently, when we make like a joke or something, it just seems like no one else is laughing if you're not watching. But trust me, I mean, we all love each other's jokes, and there's incredible reception to all of them.
I think we need, like, how on like Friends and shows like that, they have the laugh track. Maybe
that would be a nightmare.
We need the virtual audience, don't we?
Editing.
Oh my god,
a nightmare for editing. But yeah, I should probably explain the other thing I was going to say. Feel free to drink along if you're of the right age. If you are above 18 or in America 21, then feel free to join along with the boys. And yeah,
of an age.
Unless you're at the gym or something, shut up. Unless you're at the gym or at work, then I'd probably say don't. But if you're just chilling, then why not? Yeah, I was going to explain the drinking game that we'll be doing. It's the same as everyone. So if you've watched our Drunkcast in the past, you know how it works. But basically, we've all got things written down that we all do, mannerisms, phrases, just sort of thing, whatever. You'll know what I mean. Idiosyncrasies, I think Rob said earlier. If for example, Rob is being a twat, and then Danny has written Rob being a twat, and then me and Mac have not written Rob being a twat, and this is quite likely, then me and Mac will have to drink because we have not written it. However, if Danny and Mac had written it, then I would have to drink. However, if me, Danny, and Mac had written it, then Rob would have to drink. It's pretty simple, I'd say. So yeah, that's how it's going to work. We are going to talk about Arsenal. at some point. We are going to talk about the season. We're going to go through the whole thing. It's going to be a long ride. And I guess, this is where I have to introduce my drinks. So previously on this podcast, I've stuck to vodka because I think that's the other thing I was going to say. If you have like beer and you have to drink, that's at least 4 or 5 sips. Whereas if you have like a vodka or something, that's just shot. It's a shot. Yeah, I haven't had beer. I love beer compared to all other alcohol. I think all other alcohol is pretty terrible. But I folded finally and got myself a beer. Estrella. Shout Danny Ceballos, even though he's from Madrid and this is famously a Barcelona beer. Anyone who knows me knows it's my favourite beer, and I've got a few of them. But also, I had to bring out my jokes drink for the bands, and I bought back. It's the return of
the Magnum Sipper.
Magnum Sipper, Jamaican tonic wine. Oops. Sorry, the thing popped up saying the video that finished exporting. Sorry. Jamaican tonic wine. It's not great. It tastes like a syrup. And it's just jokes, isn't it? So I thought, why not bring it back?
You sound like you're like their main advertiser.
It's not a branding. I'm telling you, they would not reach out to this podcast to promote us, but to promote them. Anyway, I'm just going to take a debut sip. Not a debut, I've had it before, but like initial sip, because I think everyone should do that when they introduce. Fuck, the smell is horrible. It's actually not that bad, but it's not great either. Anyway, shall I just pass the torch on?
Yeah, go on.
I guess it's Rob then. Rob, what's your drink?
Well, I have actually gone the same as you, Alfie. I've notoriously drank vodka on this podcast over the years. In fact, I think on the Throwing Up episode, it was a mixture of drinks, which sort of pushed me over the edge with beer and vodka. But today we're just on the beer. You might be able to hear my voice. I'm not 100% fighting fit, a bit like Emil Smith Rowe second half of the season, still class, but just not quite there. But we're on the beer, and I've got a very special beer today. It's called, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's called Asahi. And Asahi is a very special beer. For me, it is the best beer in the world. So I will follow Alfie's advice, and I'll crack one open, and I'll pass the torch on to Mac, I believe, who can introduce his beer now, or whatever he is drinking. Cheers, lads.
So technically marketed as beer. It's not actually beer. I'll talk about this a couple of times. I actually have a Frisbee Summer League performance. I play Ultimate Frisbee, and my Summer League team is playing this evening. It's like mid-afternoon for me, so I am drinking the alcohol that I think will get me the least destroyed in the hour I have between when this recording will end and when I have to go play competitive sports. So I'm drinking a selection of Truly Seltzer of the margarita variant. Currently open is the mango chili variety. I also have the classic lime, the strawberry hibiscus, and the watermelon cucumber variants. Lots of flavor, lots of fun. It's a White Girl Wednesday for Mac in the fucking library. So this is just the benchmark we're setting, boys. Although I do have to market a beer. I did drink a beer last time. The beer that I'm marketing is very different. It's actually Gam beer. These are t-shirts that my Frisbee team makes. It's a beer joke after the town that my college is located in. If you wanna buy them, this is my marketing opportunity.
The country.
Not quite. Well, for you Brits, maybe, because you don't pronounce A's, you make them E's. But yeah, this is my marketing opportunity way too early. But yeah, shout out Gambier merch. Purchase them at Gambier, GAMBEER.com. My friend Teddy's going to be so happy that I've just done that. All right, that's about it. And I do have to take a sip. On to Daniel for Nobody's Shock.
Nobody's shock. All 6 of you that watch this know what I will be partaking in. The company that I hope one day will pay us for me doing this I could see it one day. I've actually evolved a little bit, much like
I saw you tag them in your tweet.
I like twerk for them.
You are
nonstop.
searching for that. You're twerking for that brand deal.
I want it so bad. You can give me $1, and I don't care. I'll donate it to charity. Please, Cigar City, give us something. Look at this. I've evolved a little, like the little Pokemon I am. I snatched up a 12 pack of the Variety Highlight. 4 different highlights in here. So yeah, this is exciting stuff. I'll get into the
Daniel. You go, girl.
There. Thank you. White Girl Wednesday. I'll get into the details about all of them when they each come. This is the original. Figure you start off with the Orig Highlight. The Merry Game of Highlight provides inspiration for the citrus-forward India Pale Ale with notes of clementine, orange peel, and caramel malt, creating an IPA that's both, like Daniel Finton, bold and approachable. So,
drink.
Oh yeah, no, I've got it too. If you don't think Highlight's on that list, yeah. Rob, have you got Highlight?
Yes, of course I do.
Oh, Daniel, my friend. 2 sips. That's 2 sips.
He's going to be screwed when he keeps mentioning
it. No, it's 8 sips because you had to do your initial one, 4, and then 1 because we all had it. So, yeah.
Good Christ.
There's already been other things that have been ticked off my list. Actually,
yeah, I've got one too. I've got one too.
So should we go through them as a collective now?
Yeah, let's start. Rob, what do you have? What do we have to do?
Okay, well, Mac has spoken about Frisbee, and that was a cheap one because he was going afterwards, but I knew he would. Does anyone else?
I have something similar. I have.
I didn't put that.
Oh, hold on a sec. My fingers got
wet. What was your similar one?
One sec. I got condensation on my fingers, and I don't want to mess up my tabs. Okay. I have. Let me know, referee, through the VAR if this counts.
Will be.
I said, Mac, some super white, villain on 13 Reasons Why shit, Frisbee, being a job.
Yeah, I think
that'll work.
That
counts.
I guess I said Frisbee, so.
Yeah, Alfie, enjoy drinking twice.
4 sips, actually, because it's
Right, because it's beer, yeah.
And then I had the Alfie insults Daniel. You called him a ginger cunt at the start of the show. So
fuck, I didn't put that one. God damn it!
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, probably.
I'm so abused. He didn't even remember he called me that.
Daniel, did you?
I had no clue.
I didn't put that. No, I guess I've gone deaf to you insulting me.
No, it's you two. It's Mac and Danny with 4 sips.
Yeah, I've just taken them.
Mac, did you have any?
I did. First of all, it's a total layup. I had Danny on Highlight, which I mentioned. I had Danny on the Mint kit, wearing or being talked about.
I had that as well, actually. I forgot about
that. That's a shame for Alf. I think that's it. I have a couple more sleepers that I know are going to pop up, but yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I had Danny. Danny obsessively delves into his drink of choice. I have that every time. It's a tap-in. It's stat padding, isn't it? Did I have anything else? Did Mac say I'm having a good time?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. Danny, did you have that?
I didn't have that.
Okay, well, Danny and Rob, that's 4 sips.
I'm pretty sure I'm up to like 20.
So go ahead, do it.
I'm at 8. I'm taking my time.
Cross mine off.
Hold the mic like a singer.
No, come on, dude. That's horrible. People, if you're listening to this on the podcast, please switch over to YouTube. You won't get to see Danny swallowing his microphone otherwise.
So I'm just going to say, this has already got to be the greatest video podcast on YouTube ever. The fact that Mac is just drinking in an editing suite in his own fucking library.
In my college's library.
And the fact that Danny brought out a fucking sparkler at the start. I think we overlooked that. That was insane.
Yeah, that was definitely
20 minutes in and we have
shocked.
discussed nothing to do with the top
While
bit.
while Daniel's taking his 30 million sips, do we want to just get
Yeah,
started?
yeah.
Start talking about the things because we should probably kick on so I don't have to leave early.
I was going to say, definitely worth noting, Mac has a hard out in like an hour and a half, and we have
Yeah,
not even started.
this might drag. Yeah, go on, Alf. Let's kick it.
Yeah, I guess it's on me to steady the ship as the invisible armband. Yeah, right. Let me get this up because I have loads of notes about what we're going to discuss, and my laptop has. There we go. Basically, we're going to talk through the season. We're going to relive it, the 2020, 21-22 campaign that's just finished. Well, it finished like almost a month ago, but we didn't have time to get all four of us together. But we're going to do it now. We're going to talk about the narratives. We're going to talk about everything. And I think, just getting my notes up. I've got to look at it on my laptop, on my phone. I think where it all begins, we have to go back to last summer to really understand this season. And the transfer window. And first of all, let's talk about the pressure that Arteta was under going into this season after he finished 8th and lost that Europa League second leg. Danny, obviously I remember you being particularly frustrated after that Villarreal game. And I think your patience with Arteta was probably at its thinnest at that point. Yeah, do you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, so I think out of all of us, definitely, maybe even on like the website, I tend to be the most sort of like dramatic, and I'm very much a fan first, you know. But with that being said, I actually don't really think my opinion on Arteta was too crazy. I think a lot of us kind of agreed that if I said if after the first 10 matches it's not looking good, he's got to go. And I think that actually a fair few of us were holding that same opinion, really. But yeah, my patience at the beginning of the season was wearing super thin. I had an extremely reactionary take where I was like, we'll finish 9th or something, which looking back at it now was utterly ridiculous. But I think I was just so, frustrated at the time. But yeah, man, those were dark days for Arteta. I think all of us were looking at him and saying, is this guy the right manager to take us back to where we want to be? Because at first it really, maybe there were some promising things, but it really kind of appeared that, I don't know, this guy might be a little bit out of his depth. Obviously, we'll get into how that fluctuated a bit as the season went on. But at that time, yeah, man, my patience was worn really thin. I was not thinking he was going to be our manager for very long, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to sort of kick off with our expectations going into this season. As you said there, you put us in 9th. I always said, and I put it in my predictions, I put it after the first 3 games, which we'll also get into. I was so convinced that we're going to get back into the top 6. I said it because the second half of last season, although there were issues still, it was so much better. It was like a 5th to 7th best team in the league, sort of. If you look at all the data and stuff, and just the way we played, we were much better in the second half of the season. So I was like, that's going to continue into the next season. Plus, I think our squad will get better, which we'll touch upon in a minute. But in fact, I guess we'll mention that in this. There was a clear change in strategy last summer to bring in young players after we'd had an initial win now sort of approach for a few years where we used the agents that we had contacts with to bring in players like Willian. And then last summer, we totally ripped it up. We got rid of a lot of players and we were like, we're going to commit to a long-term project, and it may take a while to get going, but we're going to bring in loads of players. We brought in 6 players under the age of, or 23 and under, or 24 and under. And yeah, personally, I like this strategy, and I was supporting it. And I recognize that this is going to take time, and I was like, if we can get back into the top 6, that's a good season. That was my initial expectation, because I think the top 4 are pretty much guaranteed. I thought Manchester United are going to be good. They're going to be better than they were last season with these new signings for Varane and Sancho. When Ronaldo came in, I had a sneaky suspicion that would go wrong. I'm not going to say I thought it would go anywhere near as wrong as it did. I thought Liverpool were going to be much better again. People seem to write them off a little bit, and I thought Chelsea won the Champions League. They'll kick on even further and City is City. I was like, but there's no chance of getting in the top four. Spurs will probably be about a similar level to them. I think top six makes sense. I actually thought we'd be better than Spurs because I didn't expect Nuno to be quite as bad. I think because he was so bad, he got sacked so early, which meant he couldn't continue his badness for Spurs. But anyway, I'll go to Rob. What were your expectations and feelings before the season started?
Yeah, I remember sort of being in a similar boat to you. I think I even said at one point in one of the podcasts that I thought top four should absolutely be the target, and if we don't get it, then Mikel Arteta should maybe get the sack. And I think I sort of listened.
Top four?
I remember saying that on one of the podcasts, but then I think you guys sort of persuaded me that might be a bit far-fetched in terms of expectations. And I think that was right because we had a really, really young squad this season. It's the first time we've really experienced this sort of battle for, genuine competition for a place. The last few seasons it's been like, oh, it's a write-off by the time there's 5 games left. We're out the Europa League and every match is a dead rubber, and that's been really horrible. So this season it was really nice to be competitive all the way through, but I'd say my expectations were in a similar place. I hoped that we'd finish 5th or 6th, just really the best of the rest out of us and Spurs after United, Chelsea, City and Liverpool, obviously, who are quite markedly ahead of us and were at the start of the season. So we thought, especially with Man United. I think overall the club sort of met my expectations for this season, if not perhaps went just above them. But I think we were able to go above them because of how sort of poor Manchester United were. But yeah, I think around about 5th was what I expected. And I agree with Alfie. I think the Nuno sacking had a big impact on the Premier League season as a whole.
Yep. Mac, expectations?
I don't know. I was really enjoying just signing some of the players that we were. I'd say we had a lot of controversy last spring around, Aaron Ramsdale. Will he, won't he, kind of, do we like him or not? And to be fair, he's proven a lot of the doubters wrong in that regard. But signing players like Tomiyasu and like Lokonga and like Tavares, players with kind of very high ceilings but relatively unknown names for, decently priced fees. It was a summer of a lot like something that Leicester tried to do a couple of years ago. That year that they had like Maddison, Tielemans, and Ndidi as their kind of midfield core, all young and promising at the age of 22. At that point, Tielemans had already flopped at Monaco. Ndidi was kind of just becoming a household name, and Maddison stepped into his breakout campaign that year. And it's like, it felt like Arteta was trying to do something similar, but with the entire squad, because Leicester at that season were still kind of relying on aging pieces. And Arteta said, no, it's a total gut job. And just in terms of the club being able to give him, I suppose, the backing to do something like that after an entirely, what was frankly, as Rob has mentioned, a bit of a dreadful, kind of very boring end to the season. Results don't matter. We're in a secure position. It's all about just like finishing it out and getting on to the next. That for me was promising, at least as a sign of intent from the club to be like, okay, yeah, we're backing our manager 100%. We believe in the project he wants to bring in. And now we have to kind of let him do the job he wants to do. I'd say I was pretty optimistic. Didn't anticipate some of the stuff that kind of befell the squad. I was thinking top 6 definitely as almost a lock. Again, we've already talked about kind of the competition. I didn't expect Man United to be as bad as they were, although realistically, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer mismanaging a team that doesn't work. Who could have seen it coming? Spurs, I thought were going to be better than they were. They had a lot of good summer recruitment. They were building on a pretty strong foundation. And even though we beat them to Tomiyasu signing over Emerson, who I've never particularly liked as a player, Emerson, that is, I was still very much kind of appreciative of a lot of the recruitment. What I wasn't so sure about is the managerial team behind Arteta. I'm still not sold on Edu. Edu Gaspar. But yeah, I think I was optimistic, if cautiously so, because it's Arsenal and things just do tend to go wrong.
Yeah, and I have a drink. I just had. This is quite an easy tap in, but I had Max just going on a long monologue. Not that it was particularly longer than mine or Rob's or Danny's, but I had to put that in because it's classic Max. Yeah. Danny, did you have that?
Surprisingly, I didn't. I feel like I should have had
one
that.
either. I had a,
You, Rob.
I had a
feel
very
like
similar
it's a
one.
layup for me,
but,
you lie.
It
Drink
doesn't
up,
quite.
4-6.
I feel like
Yeah. Well, I know what yours is, Rob, and I'm intentionally avoiding that. I'm not going to apologize for doing a long monologue today.
embrace the culture, Mac. You got to like all my shit got out of the way right at the beginning.
I'll do it unintentionally at some point.
No, Matt. I feel like it's actually, this is a sidebar, but I feel like it's actually impressive that Mac can just because good for you. It's good stuff. I don't know really what I thought about the other teams. By the way, I know I only mentioned Arsenal in my little monologue, but
I think we could all say that the top four felt nailed on. Yeah, sorry if I interrupted you, Danny.
Do you mean like in terms of the other teams that were gonna get it?
Everyone expected them to be sort of comfortably top four.
That's a drink,
Yes.
by the way. Alfie interrupted or apologized for interrupting.
I don't see
Fair
Alfie as polite, so I didn't have that. Hold on, let me get a second beer. My last beer was only 19 sips, so give me 1 sec.
19.
My God.
I didn't. I didn't put that. No, it wasn't for me anyway. Rob, did you put that?
No, I didn't. Hence my drinking. But I just thought I'd say it'll be interesting when we reach that sort of category of the Drunkcast, when we start to try and force each other to do the things that we've put in. I always enjoy that.
Danny, why would you not just have the drinks out beside you?
I have to make it the whole thing.
It's convenient.
You're going to the.
I don't drink room temp beers. They're going to be cold.
You go into the fridge every time. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Can I say this?
ahead.
Sorry, this is way more important than anything we're going to say on this show. This is the new highlight. Look at this one. White and green can. This is called Highlight White Oak. Now, this one's described as our unique oak-aged IPA. Well, I guess, hold on, let me rephrase that. It's not described as. The caption on this. I interviewed the guy that wrote these captions, by the way. Our unique oak-aged IPA marries the tropical profile of High Lie IPA with notes of coconut and vanilla contributed by white oak. Rustic wood notes abound, adding further dimension to our citrusy India Pale Ale.
Well, listen, Danny, you're going to have to drink a whole lot of that fucking cherry whatever white oak because we've all got High Lie on the list still. So enjoy the continued chug, my friend.
It's worth it.
Right.
This guy's eating a fig roll, so I'll talk because I like the sound of my own voice. Alfie, I don't know why you like those things so much.
They're good. Anyway, let me continue. We'll get into the actual season now. So, we had a dodgy preseason, I think. I remember I went to the Chelsea game at the Emirates. We lost that. We drew at Hibs. No, we lost at Hibs. We drew to Rangers. Can't really remember the other games. Anyway, I remember it was dodgy. There was this whole narrative about, we can't defend from corners because we conceded a few corners in pre-season, which was quite a reactionary opinion. Anyway, the terrible start. We'll get into that. 3 defeats in our first 3 games. 9 goals conceded, no goals scored. We'll start with the Brentford game, which shouldn't really have happened, should it? That we had a COVID outbreak in the squad, and the Premier League set a precedent in that game by not allowing us to postpone the game when we tried to, which they then fell back on when they, later in the season, cancelled many games when teams had fewer COVID cases than we did in that game. So fuck you, FA. It was the most inevitable defeat ever. I think we played a front four of Martinelli, who'd just come back from the Olympics, Smith Rowe in the number 10 role, Pepe on the right, who we'll probably speak about at some point in this podcast, who was terrible, and Balogun up front in his first Premier League start. And it was against a Brentford team playing their first game at that stadium with a full capacity crowd and their first game in the Premier League ever. With all the Sky Sports cameras there supporting them, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, all the media obviously wanted them to win, which I sort of don't really blame them. I mean, it's the underdogs going into their first game in the Premier League ever. They beat us, and then we played Chelsea. Pretty bad performance. Lukaku destroyed Mari. Then we had the episode 100 where we all spoke about how we felt about Arteta at that point. And then we got destroyed by Man City 5-0. And Granit Xhaka got sent off. And the second half was probably the most abysmal Arsenal performance I've ever seen. There were question marks after these 3 games. And there were some rash predictions made, which are quite funny to look back on. Because some people said we're going to finish 9th, 10th, which I thought was insane. Given the play, there were so many mitigating factors in those first few games. We didn't have Thomas Partey. Ben White missed the City and Chelsea game. Gabriel was out. Tomiyasu hadn't been signed. Ramsdale hadn't played yet. Granit Xhaka got sent off against City. He'd just come back after thinking he was going to leave. Odegaard only played in that City game where everything was lost after about 20 minutes when we were 2-0 down to 10 men. We were so depleted. I just didn't think it was fair I thought everyone rushed to conclusions a bit, and there's evidence of me saying that on that episode 100, so I'm not just saying this in hindsight. But yeah.
No,
Danny signed. Danny speak.
There was our video that we did as well, where we predicted the upturn in form afterwards.
Yes, go watch that, because we talked about how Arteta's going to turn it around tactically. And I'm just saying, but he did a lot of those things. But anyway, Danny, go ahead, because again, you were one of the most frustrated on that podcast. You were saying maybe give him till the 10th game to analyse, but you were saying, and I think it was completely fair enough at this point to heavily question Arteta. I just felt at the time, due to the mitigating factors, we've just got to let it pan out a bit longer. But yeah, Danny, go ahead.
No, you're completely right. And even guys, I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm a little bit reactionary. I was saying those 10 games, hold out for the 10. Oh, Alfie just killed his first beer. We love to see it. But basically, I was saying the 10 game thing because I just didn't see how the heck he was going to turn this around. What I will say about some of those mitigating factors, Alfie, is that we didn't really know how good Ramsdale was going to be, for example. We didn't know that some of the players were going to...
Yeah, but White, Gabriel, look at our back 5 in that City game. It was just, this is going to make people laugh looking at it now. Cedric, Chambers, Holding, Kolasinac, Tierney was our back 5. Cedric, Kolasinac, Chambers.
Bro, that hurts my skin.
It is a horrendous backline, yeah. So I think, that said, though, the mitigating factors I think weren't totally... in the back of a lot of our minds, because I know I wasn't the only person saying that. It's like we knew that White was going to be decent. Someone just dropped something.
No, Alfie and Rob just both opened their beers in sync and then cheersed each other. And I was giggling at it. Which
come on, I'm eating here. That's disgusting. I'm going to throw up like Rob in the drawer.
Quick pause before you continue, Danny. I do have a drink just to step in. Alfie's mentioned tactics with that back 5, and that's going to be a gimme throughout the pod. I've got so many of those. So, cheers. Alfie's tactics.
Nice.
And it begins.
Thank you.
That's Rob and Danny drinking.
I'm up to 644 drinks.
You were close to one of mine for you, Alfie, but you will get there at some point.
Yeah, the fact that he's not done one of mine is honestly a shock, but he'll do it eventually.
It's probably the same thing.
He's a little shitweed. He's like a freaking tactical genius because he's walking on these eggshells very well. Alfie's going to walk out of here and be able to drive after.
I'm glad I'm not driving to Frisbee, man.
But what I was saying, it was just, we didn't know really how good those new players were going to turn out to be. And so it just looked pretty hopeless at that stage. But, thankfully, like I said on my last bit of talking, what we saw later on was that it actually sort of stabled out a bit, and Arteta kind of got the best out of his new recruits. So.
Yeah. Max, do you want to say something about that terrible start and how you were feeling after?
Yeah. I'd say I think my big one was after the terrible start and the kind of 5-game limit that they set. On Arteta has kind of 5 games to save his job. That was the big narrative. First of all, the first time I've seen the Arsenal board actually do something right in quite a while. Really, really, that's a good decision. 5 games, I said it at the time in an article, was a great limit for, kind of setting boundaries, saying if you hit this point and it hasn't improved, you're gone. But if you kind of can improve, turn things around, we'll give you a second run at it. But also, I'd say, the 2 losses, for some reason, we always draw big 6 teams in our opening 3 matches, and it never goes well. I was expecting Chelsea and City, but the Brentford one was the one that really hurt me. I get the circumstances, but we stepped into that with just very little mentality, very little kind of mental strength. And that was something that probably my least favorite part about those 3 matches, and the thing I loved most about our improvement into October, November, December, was the ability that we had to just regain a little bit of that kind of, at least some sense of cohesiveness, working together. It really was just it was a shambles. And you mentioned that kind of opening half against City, or was it second half against City, whatever it was, that was the worst thing you've ever seen in your life.
Second half.
Yeah, that second half.
I think we got into their half about 3 times.
Right. I think it was 4 touches in their half the entire time. Yeah. It was genuinely horrendous. But honestly, at the end of the day, the fact that we did rebound from that, I think, is one of the most impressive parts of the season. There were a lot of reactionary takes on Twitter kind of towards the tail end that were oh my God, it's not top 4. Arteta has to be gone. And it's well, you've forgotten that we were 20th with a -9 goal difference after our first 3 games and still almost beat the side that were first with 9 points at the time.
I think that ability to bounce back, sort of, to have a bit more perspective on that, I think it characterized a lot of our season. We had a lot of those setbacks where we would, I think we spoke about this towards the end of the season, where we would lose sort of 3 games on the bounce consistently, or get, just play poorly in a few games in a row, and then somehow we'd find a way to turn it around. And unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough at the end of the season. But I remember there were real points this season where people have really been questioning the team's character. And whilst I do understand that, at the end of the day, we did sort of bottle it with regards to the top 4. We were in a very strong position. But the team showed a lot of character this season, and especially for a young squad to come back from that adversity that you speak about, Mac, I think that was brilliant. It was just a shame that those 3 games had to come before I went to university and had to go and tell everyone at uni I was an Arsenal fan. So that was a tough one.
That is a pretty good segue.
I finally have a thing. Hold on. I'm sorry.
Go on.
Rob mentioning university in some capacity.
Yeah, tapping.
That was my.
I didn't put that.
That's quite a unique one. I like that. I didn't put it either.
It feels good. I've had 650,000 sips. I couldn't say 1,000 because I'm stupid. But it feels good to see you guys taking some sips due to me.
Yeah, and I was going to say that university thing was a pretty good segue into the next bit. By the way, just a little aside, some guy walked past your room, Mac, when you were speaking. He looked in and looked so confused. Some Donny.
Yeah, there's been a million people doing that earlier.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first ever Arsenal Cannon podcast in front of a live audience.
One of these days we have to do a live show. USA England, this Thanksgiving for the World Cup, we have to do a live broadcast or something. I want to so badly.
Mac, isn't it crazy? Mac, isn't it crazy we're going to win that game?
Fucking, we're third in the group. Iran are making it through. Just saying.
Well, why was
Okay.
just before we move on, why was Pulisic like in a puddle last night?
Oh, because of the game
CONCACAF
against.
is crazy, bro.
Yeah, well, who is the game against last night? Was
El Salvador.
It was El Salvador. Yeah, the conditions were genuinely horrible. There was like an awful red card. He was having a terrible game. Got like really upset. Ended up falling into a puddle at one point. I saw the photos
Sounds
on
like
social
me at
media.
4 years
Very
old
entertained.
saying when my parents said we couldn't get McDonald's.
Yeah, let me finally get onto my amazing transition that would have been
Please
amazing
do.
if there hadn't been several interruptions. Yeah, Rob went to uni, but the day before he went to uni, Mr. Mac Johnson made his first appearance at the Emirates. I filmed him walking into the stadium, a few tears in his eyes, tweeted it. It banged likes on Twitter. Arsenal retweeted it. That's how he got the name, the celebrity, on this podcast. And it was against Norwich, and it was our first win of the season. Aubameyang scored. Quickly, before I talk about September improvements, Mac, do you want to say anything about your appearance at the Emirates?
Wearing this shirt, I might add. Big up the badge. But yeah, genuinely experience of a lifetime. I've said this in the podcast before. It was about a like almost a 12 or 13 hour journey, or no, more than that. It was like an 18-hour journey down and back, 2 9-hour overnight bus rides. I came from a Friday night in St. Andrews where all my friends were going out, and I was like, all right, nope, I'm going to London to see Arsenal play. Got back the next day at like 10 in the morning, changed in a car park into a suit and went to the horse races. Had a great 48 hours of my life. The tweet currently is on 712,000 views, 13,500 likes, about 2,000 quote tweets and retweets. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I remember I was on the bus on the way home and I got a text from Alfie being like, mate, it's, going crazy. It was on like 2K likes at that point. It had been on like 200 and I'd gone to bed, and I was like, great, that's double the most I've ever gotten before. This is insane. But yeah, just happy days. Really had a great time. Almost got it posted on like that 433 account. Except I asked them to tag Alfie as the creditor and they didn't respond to me. So yeah, Alfie, you're bringing me down, boss.
Mac,
But
no, it was Mac is so humble.
That's
We love
it.
Mac. Such a good video. It was cute. I wanted to kiss you on the face when I saw it. And
yeah, man, I honestly, literally experience of a lifetime. Although I'm seeing them again. They're playing Everton in Baltimore, which is like an hour and a half from my hometown. And so I'm going back home for that weekend to see them play, and I'm very excited about it.
And me too. I get to see him in Orlando, about an hour and a half, ironically, from my house as well. So
lovely. That makes me look so bad saying I wanted to be tagged. I don't. I think we said we love you Arsenal tagged. I was like, we might as well make the most of this 4-3-3 shout.
Yeah.
But that event also coincided with my return. Well,
I was about to say it was mine too.
Competitive game and Rob's. Rob, do you want to say anything about that?
It was amazing. I mean, I think it's been a really underrated aspect of this season. The atmosphere at the Emirates has been amazing all year. There's literally been a handful of games where it's been drab and quiet in there. And I think just the time away that COVID sort of forced Arsenal fans to deal with, and football fans globally, obviously, it just has really rejuvenated the Emirates crowd. It's been so nice to see a bubbly atmosphere in there, and also nice that it just feels a bit more youthful there when you go as well. There's so many young fans at the stadium, and obviously we haven't mentioned it was I'm yet to meet Daniel, which is gutting. But it was the first time that we sort of had a trifecta in person all together, and that was pretty cool.
It was the first time I met Mac when he came to my house. Actually, had a little nap. So relevant.
I did. It was a good nap. Yeah. First time I've met Alf. First time I've met Rob. Hung out. Recorded a live podcast with Alf later in that semester as well. Yeah. It just has myself.
Yeah, that is true. Myself and Mac went to the pub before that game. And that sort of leads me on to, I said this in the Everton podcast after the final game with Rob when we were talking about our experience of the season. This was by far the most enjoyable season for myself following Arsenal, because just the fact, I mean, it's one of so since I turned 18, I had the year where I was doing my gap year where none of my friends were there, so I'd go to the game, come back. But also, most of that season was taken up by Emery being horrible and the whole fan base hating going to games. We had a little bit under Arteta where it sort of got a little bit better, but then COVID happened. And that was a year and a half out. And then it was this game, basically. And this was the start of a season where I followed Arsenal coming from Brighton with my Caribbean mate, shout out Galrav. And it was just very enjoyable. The atmosphere, as Rob said, was so much better. It was part of the match day experience. It's just, I forgot how much I missed it. And, going to the pub before and after, it was just great. But that sort of leads me on to the big moment in September where we beat Spurs in the North London derby. One of the most memorable games of the season. We were excellent in the first sort of 35 minutes. Took a 3-0 lead. Smith Rowe and Saka got their first goals of the season. Aubameyang scored a beautiful team goal, one of the goals of the season. And that was the best atmosphere I've experienced at the Emirates since Barcelona 2011. Absolutely no doubt. It was fucking bouncing in there. Harry Kane was getting it. It was beautiful. And it sort of marked the start, or it sort of kicked our season off, because before that we had two sort of narrow 1-0 wins over Norwich and Burnley. But that sort of kicked the season off, set the tone for this feeling of unity amongst the fan base. And just, there were players we liked again. Like, how many times we've spoken in recent years about players we just like, fuck this, like Mustafi, Kolasinac. I don't want to dig into them.
Wasn't that the match that started the Saka and Emile Smith Rowe chant as well? Like, that's where it all kind of began there.
Yes. I mean, should we all do it as a little bit?
There's still a player that you hate in the current squad, though, Alfie, isn't there?
Okay, we don't talk about that. Cedric.
We're both aiming for it, Rob. It's fine.
The loser. Is that what you want me to say?
There it is. Loser is, of course, on my bingo card. Yeah. So.
Did you write that, Danny?
Of course I did. Come on.
So I have
to drink.
Yes. Rob's been trying to get you into that one for a minute, dude. Oh no.
Let's all do the Saka and Smith Rowe chant. Fuck it. Right. 3.
Yeah, right, go on then.
Unmute yourself, lads. 3, 2, 1.
I like it. I like it.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. Oh, here we go.
This is so deep. The sync on this is going to be terrible.
I feel sorry for everyone watching this.
Look at the audio waves. We fucked that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even partake because I knew it would be horrendous.
Dude, I don't know why we've started it in such like a low register as well. Like, you started in the fucking basement, Alf. There was no excitement there.
It's just how my voice is. I've just realized.
Such a man.
He's manly man, deep voice. Rob making fun of Alf. Bingo.
Sebastian Squillaci has something to say.
Enjoy a drink, Danny and Alf, for Rob making fun of Alfie. Unless you've got that on there as well.
That's not me, is it?
Well, it is. It's a bingo for Rob. So yes, it is.
My teal makes Rob squeal, has something to say. Yeah.
It's horrible, bro.
We're in this Zencaster thing, and you can put your hand up, and they've all named themselves thing. Sebastian Squillaci, the celebrity, and my teal makes Rob squeal are the 3 people.
I love how it's my teal makes Rob squeal, the celebrity, said Squillaci, and Alfie Culshaw.
I didn't get the opportunity, because I'm the hosting this. I didn't get the opportunity to change my name, so don't make fun of my inability to be creative.
He's like, you know what?
Twat.
You know what would be so funny and would make everyone happy? My own name!
Straight banger.
Fuck's sake. All right, we'll move on. We'll move on to October, because September was quite uneventful, apart from that North London derby win. Disappointing draws to Palace, and he's off to the fridge, Danny. And Brighton happened. The Brighton game was pretty bad. I think one of our worst performances of the season. Brighton were the better team. Ramsdale started to really show himself, I think, in that game. I think he made a really important intervention. We started to really love him as a player. Palace was terrible. until the sort of last 20 minutes, and we snatched a draw. Lacazette scored. And that sort of emerged a little period in the season where we sort of changed our system. Odegaard got dropped, which feels crazy to think of now.
Bingo, Alfie tactics.
Fair enough. Right, well, those two can drink. That sort of, Odegaard came out, Lacazette came in. Lacazette and Aubameyang formed this partnership. Lacazette was sort of a pressing 10/9, which he sort of became in the end anyway. And we did see a good run of form. We beat Villa very comfortably. We played very well in that game. I was at that game. That was one of the best atmospheres as well. Really good performance. We beat Leicester.
Yeah, it's quite satisfying after their chat last summer, wasn't it, as well, the Villa fans?
Exactly. And Rob, talk to me about that system change and that sort of little period where we beat Leicester, Villa, Watford.
Yeah, it was quite a weird one because it didn't feel like it should work because it never really has. And I think we were all sort of had accepted at that point that Lacazette and Aubameyang didn't really work in the same system under Arteta. But it was the first time that he tried that and kept Aubameyang down the middle. I just couldn't believe how sort of tenacious Lacazette was at that point. Do you remember? He was just winning every single ball that he went for. It was incredible. I don't know what came over him. And yeah, it felt like he could do nothing wrong at that time. It didn't feel like Aubameyang was 2 months away from leaving the club. Definitely, he was still a really key figure, still scoring goals. They eventually dried up, but he had a decent start to the season over. But yeah, I think it was quite an enjoyable period. Unfortunately, it wasn't really sustainable. We carried on with that system, and then it was sort of found out when we went up to Everton and United, and that was a gut-wrenching period, which I think that we'll probably move on to in a second. But yeah, I enjoyed watching us at that time. As I said, Lacazette, very good. Really enjoyable to watch Ramsdale breaking into the team. He obviously had his moment of the season in that period as well with that phenomenal save against Leicester. And yeah, I think everything was just quite nice. We were beginning to really like that set of players, which, as you said a few minutes ago, Alf, that's quite alien for us Arsenal fans, really.
Well, yeah. And I was going to say, it was a nice little period, but I think when you look at the metrics, the XG stuff, I knew. What is it, Danny?
XG.
Who else had XG?
Amazingly, I don't have XG.
No,
so
neither do
come
I.
on, guys.
So it's Rob and Mac.
Question. First of all, two questions. One, am I a dickhead for having both Alfie and Rob talking about tactics on my bingo sheet? Second off, does that count? Because you've literally just asked Rob to talk about tactics.
Of course that counts. You can get anyone in it.
Okay, good.
I also actually
me talking about tactics, but that's not fair. You asked me to talk about it.
I had Rob talking about systems and tactics and formation.
Game's the game. Game's the game, Rob.
I don't get why we get bullied
Yeah,
for
I'm
being
so
nerds.
sorry.
It's literally what we all want to do for a living. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Danny, that's like 5 drinks for you, whatever.
At least.
Right.
It really stinks having the most established character, you know?
Doesn't it just?
Yeah. So
I'm eating chips now, by the way, because I've eaten nothing today, and I just realized, oh snap, I'm killing craft beers right now. So I'm gonna get enhancedly intoxicated. Enhancedly is not a word for sure.
That's
but
funny though.
Yeah, funny, especially because I've got a double there. Daniel makes up a word, enhancedly. Also, Daniel with a personal anecdote. Those are both absolutely unreal.
I have that.
Okay.
I have anecdote.
So Rob enjoy the double for the personal anecdote. And Rob and Alfie enjoy one for for the fucking
finished.
Yeah, Jesus wept. Yeah, enjoy one for the made up word.
Yeah, I will get my new beer, but I'm just going to move on because I was going to say with my metrics, the results started getting better, but the metrics were still a bit inconsistent. We had a particular thing where the game state was very much a thing. If we didn't take the lead early, we tended to struggle. I remember there was a period where every time we did take the lead, though, we didn't just really know what to do with it. And we'll get onto that with the Everton United results. But first, we went to Anfield, and there was really interesting discourse about this game because, sorry, I just got a ping, which you would have heard if I hadn't had headphones on, and Danny would be like, "Oh, there's the ping." Traditional
Stop
podcast.
talking
But anyway,
to yourself.
I didn't have the ping written down, so you're safe.
Yeah, we went to Anfield. We lost 4-0. It wasn't great. Sambi and Nuno had very difficult second half, sorry. After having a very good run in the team, I think we have to point out. I thought both were looking really solid and promising up until that point. And then we went to Anfield. They had a bit of... they got shook a little bit, to put it that way. Lost 4-0. Question marks were raised again. I think look at the XG for that game. It wasn't great. And then went back home, beat Newcastle. And then I think the real question marks after the first 3 games came back up probably most at any point in the season. When we went to Old Trafford, which, by the way, I was there. First away game I've been to, which was amazing. Even though we lost it, it was an amazing experience. And I don't know what he means there. And we also lost to Everton 2-1 in a terrible, terrible performance. And at that point, everyone was like, "Are we even good?" And there were a lot of question marks. And I think that was possibly the point I questioned Arteta the most in his tenure, I'd say. Mac, do you have anything to say about that period and what you were feeling after those 2 defeats?
I'd say it was, I don't know, to an extent you kind of expect it from an Arsenal team. We tend to do quite poorly at the start of the season, then quite well in late September, October, and then we always have a fall off either in November or December, right? It's the classic Arsenal November, March was what it was under Wenger. And to an extent, in the grander scheme of things, I think it was just pretty indicative of the fact that this team was very streaky, either running very hot or very cold, and then kind of turning it around both ways. But at the time, this is while I was in Scotland, and I had a lot of trouble, I'd say, just with me and just kind of, it was hard because it was quite a close streak of games that I was continually at the pub. It was the ones all of my friends came to from my exchange program and stuff. And, they've popped in the only matches they've seen all year, and we're just losing matches that we probably shouldn't be losing. And that was frustrating for me. And then I left. And as soon as I left Scotland, we started turning results around again. But so that was just kind of a little anecdote from my life. And Rob, you're welcome. I'm sorry for the ramble, but yeah. That's about all I've got. I'd say I didn't really give up hope. I was used to us kind of faltering and coming back at that point. But I guess I was still a little bit on the fence. I just wanted us to kind of have a good run of form. I think I said on a podcast at the time that we recorded Alf. Might have been an extra show. That sorry, there's madness going on in the chat right now. We talked about an extra show, and it was again a little bit of a turning point. Kind of if Arteta can't turn things around, it's again time to start asking questions. But we didn't quite hit that point. So
yeah, it was a low point in the season for me. I think it was a point where I was like, we had a pretty good second half of last season, but this season, although we had some positive results in that little bit we just talked about, the football still wasn't amazing. And we're about to talk about how it completely turned in the next game. Hot diggity dog. Danny will get that. There's a group chat on this little Zencaster thing that we're using.
Yeah, I get that Danny, as well. Don't worry, Mac.
You...
Hot dog, hot diggity dog.
That's Clubhouse, baby.
Yeah.
That was my fucking childhood.
All right. Let's remember, this is an Arsenal canon podcast, not Disney Channel canon podcast, so shut the fuck up. Danny.
F-bomb from Alfie. Bingo.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Wow,
Did you guys
no, I
have
didn't
that?
have that.
No, I didn't have that. That's so
Yeah.
random.
Well,
Yeah.
Danny, do you want to say anything about that after that Everton game?
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, it was funny. Sorry, the chat's popping off. They're making fun of the way
It's
I
feeling
talk.
wavy already. I can see
I
it.
haven't eaten anything. I haven't drank any water.
Do you want to say anything? No.
No, but I called I called Rob dog in the chat. I said my dog is dying, and now I'm just getting absolutely killed in our little chat. I like how Max said, "Oh, there's some crap going on in the chat, like we're some streamers," but it's just us talking to ourselves like the losers we are.
This guy is
I'm
not
trying.
listening to any of the conversation. He's
He's
just
not
like,
heard a word.
Oh
No.
I'm gonna get some bread. No, I mean, I just like
or like actual like bread, like grain.
I'm not getting money. I know that much.
Ah.
But
Right, let me
You know,
steady the ship. Let me
yeah,
do
steady the
this.
ship. I'm stupid. Don't mind me.
Go and get some bread.
I just hope these Sports Bible blokes aren't watching this video, because apparently they watch me and Alfie's stuff, and this doesn't reflect well on me.
Oh shit! It doesn't. We'll steady the ship.
It's mostly me. They'll be like, "Who is that American guy that you work with? He's a freakazoid freak."
Yeah, it probably will be that. The turnaround happened. I didn't think it'd be going downhill this early. I thought maybe when we get to February or March, like Arsenal, how normally things went under Wenger, we sort of collapsed then. I thought this podcast would collapse then, but it's happened in December. Anyway, the turning point, the game where things seemed to click, was that Southampton game. And from them on, we won 3-0. From then on, we were really good for a while. I think that crab Scott did a data thing in like at the end of the season, and he said between mid-December and the end of March we were like we had title winning metrics. We were that good. We found the system with we switched system actually to a 4-3-3. Xhaka was playing as a left eight, which none of us thought would actually come, but it did. Rob has spoken about switching to 4-3-3 for ages, and eventually it happened. Xhaka was operating that left half space, Odegaard in the right, Martinelli and Saka out wide, and Lacazette was playing that sort of focal point role, which at the time he was in very, very well. We beat West Ham very comfortably.
Yeah,
we beat Norwich emphatically.
Just some of that football we were playing was champagne football. I was watching some of the highlights of the Man City game, which we'll get onto later, and just watching Thomas Partey like patrol that midfield and just so many players in their optimum position. It was wow, gorgeous champagne football.
Much like the Miller High Life, which is the champagne of beers. Represented here on my t-shirt. I'm getting paid for this plug, so we're doing it again. No, entirely joking. But I completely agree with you, Rob. I think it kind of got to a point where we had found a system finally that, Arteta had been trying for literally years to play system football, to kind of have, like his mentor Pep, positions where each individual player could kind of have a role, have a section, and play that to perfection, if that makes sense. That was wildly poetic for me, but and he finally found a system where, with the exception of Xhaka occasionally looking a little too unathletic higher up, it worked really, really well. But the issue is it required everybody in the squad to be fit, and while they were, that was completely fine. But injuries hit again, everything like that, and it wasn't perfectly, kind of things slid downhill because some of the personnel were missing, and that, I'd say, is where the big turn happened for us. Not sure if I'm leaving people open for a transition there, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Well, we'll talk about January now, which I think was a pivotal month in the season. Players went away to AFCON. Well, El Neni and Partey and Pepe. We lost players to injury. We lost players to COVID, and we had that period where the North London derby was postponed. That's the word. We had that City game where we were excellent in the first half, and then we got mugged off by refs. Rob, I don't know where Rob's going. He's probably for a piss. Oh, he said he's going to get some food in the chat. This is already a mess. I'm gonna try and steady the ship, as I said at the start. Invisible armband and that. We'll talk about January. As I said, we had that period where Lacazette was our only midfielder, and he had to play at the base. We got knocked out of the FA Cup to Forest. He had to play at the base with Smith Rowe and Odegaard as the eights, which just didn't work. We went to Liverpool, and we had probably the most depleted squad I've ever seen. We literally had like 6-7 youngsters on the bench, and we managed to get a draw with 10 men. But there was a lot of talk about the window and the players we let go. We let go. If we're going to talk about Aubameyang in a minute, Chambers. What else was there? Chambers, Maitland-Niles, Aubameyang, Pablo Mari all left, and we didn't sign anyone. And there are a lot of arguments for that to be the case, that we didn't want to move from our plan. We didn't want to make some rash decisions in January, which I think the striker department is so debatable, but it was probably the right decision, because you look, if we'd spent 70 million on Isaac, would that have been the right choice, or 80, whatever the release clause was? But at the same time, could we have got someone in better than what Lacazette ended up being, who could have helped us? I'm going to ask Danny. Do you have something to say about Arsenal this time?
I do actually, because that left me. Thank you. That left me particularly frustrated, because it was just like, I feel like it was fairly simple what we had to do in the January window. I mean, I guess signing players is never going to technically be simple, but just like the people that we needed to reinforce the squad, I feel like was pretty point blank. And just the complete lack of action in the window, I still to this day, now that the season is gone and the dust has settled and the nerves have kind of calmed down, and we're not all totally furious anymore about missing top four, I still think that January window is one of the main things that cost us the top four. Because if we just had made, one signing up front, or maybe even a helping hand in the midfield, perhaps that could have helped us get that top four position that we were, gunning for at the end of the campaign. So it was really just a disaster from the club, I think, in that window. On the pitch, though, that was difficult, with all the COVID was running rampant, the injuries and everything. Like Alfie said, there was one point where we just saw names that we'd never even seen before on the bench, and that's never fun, especially against a side like Liverpool. But yeah, honestly, it wasn't even stuff on the pitch that was frustrating me that bad, because stuff happens. But off the pitch, the complete lack of action during January was really just frustrating for me, man.
But do you think? You said it was a disaster, and I do think maybe, like, for example, we could have kept hold of Maitland-Niles. He could have been useful in that period when, for example, Tomiyasu was out. We could have used him at right back, even in midfield in that period when we just had Lacazette. But when you talk about the disaster, you look at the striker situation. We clearly had a plan to, in this summer, do work on that striker position. The Aubameyang situation happened, which left us with just Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah, which clearly wasn't sufficient in the end. But do you think it was a disaster that we decided we're not going to fold on our long-term plan and not getting a striker that summer and rush? Because imagine we had signed Isaac for 75 million. That wouldn't have been a good decision. Let's be all look at it that way. Like, yeah.
I mean, like with the striker thing, it almost is just like with the striker situation, the disaster, I feel like is almost Arsenal just being a victim of circumstance with, Vlahovic sort of holding out for Juventus. I don't think there was anything we really could have done about that. But with the midfield,
You've seen the
Alfie, it
stuff
just
that
seemed like
Vlahovic has been saying lately about the fact that he had like no idea about the Arsenal
Yeah,
interest.
yeah.
Such bollocks.
That his agent talked to him about it like once ever, and he was like, "Nah, that's all right." And then Arsenal just continued to put offers in, and he wasn't told about any of them because he had already informed his agent and his like managing team that he only wanted to go to Juve.
There's no way that's true. Like,
Exactly, but that's what he
knew we were
said.
interested.
But like, yeah,
There's no
No.
way his agent would have
Right.
seen all of this like interest and just not told him. And also,
it's quite
even
odd.
if he did, he would have seen it in the media somewhere. He would have seen that everyone's talking about him going to Arsenal.
I mean, like there was like this. I forgot his name, so apologies. But we had an extremely reliable American journalist just come out that was on the Gooners podcast, an American Arsenal podcast. Check it out after you're done watching this one. And they had him as a guest, and he was saying like, no, that's just not true. Vlahovic knew about the Arsenal interest. He chose Juventus, and if he flops, that's his problem. He went to one of the most defensive, pragmatic coaches in the world, and if he flops, then that's on him. But so with the striker situation, look, we wanted Vlahovic. We wanted a nice young player that would fit into the way that we were buying players, and we didn't get our main man, so they didn't want to settle, which I'm completely cool with. What does really frustrate me, though, was the whole midfield thing. We knew we were going to need midfield reinforcements before Thomas Partey even got that.
There's talk of Arthur Melo.
Which would just, the Arthur Melo thing, I just never, I don't know. It was one of those weird ones where it seemed like the club was actually interested, but it never seemed like it was actually going to happen.
Well,
it seemed,
sorry about the interruption. I was going to say there's a reason for that. And you've noticed like obviously the Juve loans to Tottenham for Bentancur and Kulusevski. They were loaned out because they were seen as like surplus to requirements, but Juve wanted them back. The difference is that Arthur was surplus to requirements and Juve didn't want him back. So they either wanted to give him away on an 18-month loan with an option to buy or a 6-month with an obligation. And Arteta wasn't going for either of those because that's either a year and a half of a player who might not pan out or 6 months with a player that you then have to buy who might not pan out. So like it was Juve were kind of trying to take, I think Arsenal frankly have a little bit of a poor reputation in the transfer market right now just because of the poor business we've done in the recent years. And I think people do kind of tend to try and fleece us. If you remember that whole Aouar thing where they just kept raising the price by like 10 million to try and get more money. It felt like a similar thing to that where they were trying to kind of take advantage of Arsenal and our poor recruiting board. And, they kind of made a decision and said, listen, we're not going to go through with this, which, fair enough. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
In Arsenal's, no, you're good. In Arsenal's defense, though, I think that, and honestly, people are not going to like to hear this, but in the board's defense, I think that there's this weird thing about Arsenal fans and their just enormous presence on social media where it's kind of like if you don't finish what you've got started in terms of signing a player, then you are going to get obliterated on those social spheres, and that is hugely, relevant these days. I mean, you could talk about ignoring it and all that, but it's still, they're going to notice it. And we do have a bad reputation in the transfer market, though. I won't deny that at all. But I mean, while I sympathize slightly with the whole Arthur Melo thing and, the Juventus and all of these Italian clubs that we're dealing with right now, especially with like Lucas Torreira, like giving us a difficult time in terms of getting money or giving money. It's just like you should have more options than one player. I get you want to have a plan in place. Like with Vlahovic, they wanted a young physical striker that would score goals. So I understand. But like with the midfield, we were pretty much only linked to Arthur Melo. And then it was just no other backup plan,
I agree with that. Surely there are other links, but the midfield thing, what was I going to say? It only cost us in a handful of games. Let's be honest. Like maybe you could have said we could have brought someone in so we didn't have to rely on El Neni later in the season, but it was 2 Premier League games. We didn't have Xhaka Partey. It was Burnley. And no, it was just Burnley. It was a few League Cup games, and it was Burnley. And maybe you could have said if we got someone like Arthur Melo to play alongside Laconga in the Burnley game, we might have won that game, which ultimately would have put us level on points with Spurs. But that's one game in the season. I still think the problem was the striker, but I'm so torn on whether we should have signed someone, because I do understand the idea of, we want to stick to our plan. The only real way I think we could have complained about that is if we could have signed someone on a 6-month loan who would have been better than Lacazette and Nketiah. But was there someone like that available? We don't know. Let's talk about Aubameyang before we move on with the last part of the season, where it's a bit more straightforward and black and white. We basically were really good, had the little blip, and then recovered a little bit, and then had the 2 games which defined our season, which we lost both. Anyway, Aubameyang, could he have been that striker that I'm talking about? Potentially. I mean, he had okay first half of the season. It wasn't great. He scored 4 Premier League goals. He was looking slightly better than he did last season, but he wasn't particularly great. And Lacazette came in and offered a lot of stuff that he couldn't offer. Albeit Lacazette didn't offer the goal threat that Aubameyang could. But there was obviously a breakdown in the relationship, which meant there was no coming back. Rob, I saw you just about to eat something.
No, I'm ready. I'm eating too much.
Okay, talk to me about the Aubameyang saga that sort of started in December and ended. It got a conclusion at the end of January when he went to Barca.
Yeah, well, he sort of lost his place in the team in that Everton match away. Sort of a really disappointing night for all Arsenal fans. We went 1-0 up, and then
he didn't actually play in that though.
He was dropped, and then he came on right at the end.
I saw his last game where he missed a fucking sitter against United, and I remember on the Arsenal bus back, everyone hated him. Everyone was shit.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I mean, you're right. He wasn't having a great season. I think he was obviously superb against Spurs. He looked like a complete striker in that game. Not only did he score that brilliant goal, but he was linking up really well with the Emil Smith Rowe. It looked like they were striking up a really nice relationship. But, he missed 2 penalties in the first half of the season. The first one, he was lucky enough to rebound in after Emi Martinez saved it. And then he missed one against Watford. So, he wasn't in great form. And then he comes on after a really disappointing game at Old Trafford. He's been dropped. And he misses an absolute sitter right at the end of the game against Everton. And then we don't see him in an Arsenal shirt again. He's stripped of the captaincy.
You mean United?
Yeah. No, I mean against Everton. Yeah. Right at the end against Everton.
He didn't play.
He did. Though. He came on right at the end and he missed a sitter.
That was Eddie.
No, it was definitely Aubameyang. I
remember
find
there was a whole thing.
Does anyone else want to chirp in?
About,
because I'm pretty convinced it was against Everton.
You might be right, but I remember Eddie.
No fucking memory of this one, boys.
Eddie came on and missed a sitter. He hit header against the post.
There was that, but then right at the end.
No, Alba also missed a sitter in that game.
Do you remember he hit it across goal?
He missed a cross goal. Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
It was like a glaring. He got one at the near post. Had everywhere to aim for, no defenders in sight, and shanked it 5 feet wide.
I know for a fact it wasn't a high XG chance.
No, it wasn't. But it's the type that you'd expect a striker of his quality to score. If that makes it and that was frankly. I'll step in if you don't mind, Rob, just to say that was kind of my real thing about being okay with Aubameyang going at the end of the day. Because for the entirety of the season that he had for us and that last season, with the notable exception of the Spurs game, most of the chances you would expect him to be scoring, he was missing. And we've had that struggle with Lacazette, of course, and his freaking confidence demon that seems to attack every time he's getting into good form. But as for Aubameyang, he could always kind of find those moments to recover and to get back into stride in previous years. And he just could not insert himself into those positions and get the ball in the back of the net. And it really,
by the way,
yeah,
he did come on for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and he missed a sitter at the end.
He missed a 5% chance in the 98th minute.
Well, sure, but
It was probably his last touch for Arsenal.
Which
most
website are
likely,
you finding
but yeah,
this on?
it's just that's the narrative, and
Infogol
is the one, to be fair. But kind of, I think, I don't know, there was a certain amount of displeasure among the fan base at him being released in the first place, and then a certain amount of displeasure at the fact that he was released for free and his contract was canceled, and then a certain amount of displeasure at the fact that his contract was canceled and we were paying some of his wages at Barcelona. Like, there was a whole step-by-step process of all of the reasons Arsenal fans believe that we fucked up in giving him away. But at the same time, I think it was the best alternative, because when a player kind of becomes a net negative in the team, I saw a transfer marked Instagram post about this the other day that was like Arsenal's poor business. And it was the fact that we've signed a bunch of players for quite high wages and let them mostly all go for free. You know, that being like Lacazette and Aubameyang and Ozil are kind of like the classic three because they're the big ones. I think Alexis might have been the other one because I know he was technically a swap deal and there was money involved.
Ramsey, Wilshere,
Aaron Ramsey is another. But it's all of these players that we've signed and kind of have been core parts of our team and that we've then let go for very low fees because we've mismanaged their contracts. And I think the same thing was true of Aubameyang to an extent in terms of the mismanagement of his contract. But at the end of the day, we needed to get 350 grand off a week off of our wage bill.
Right, little technical difficulty. It's a inevitable thing in these Drunkcasts. Happens every time. We're getting straight on to February. We talked about Aubameyang in depth. February, we went to Dubai in January for a little pre-season break, which a lot of people forgot about. And then we had a February where we basically had no games. We had Wolves twice and Brentford. We won all three. Both Wolves games are pretty action-packed. The first game, obviously, Martinelli got sent off, which I think is a good point. We didn't speak about refs after City. We're going to speak briefly about refs this season. I'm going to give it to Matt because he has to go soon. Martinelli got one of the most ridiculous red cards I've ever seen when he got booked twice in the same sequence, and he didn't know about the first booking. But yeah, Mac, talk to me about refs in the season and also that little period where we beat Wolves.
Yeah. First of all, I was going to say, to clarify, Arsenal went to Dubai. We did not go to Dubai. Most of us are students and you cannot afford that. Joking. But I'd say start with the Martinelli red card and refs. We've talked about the City game already and kind of how that was a little bit of a travesty. Frankly, we deserved to win that game. We outplayed them. They won because of refereeing decisions and, frankly, a lucky goal at the end. But yeah, the Martinelli red card I quite enjoyed writing about, mostly because the English referees broke the rules of their own FA system. Like, who was the referee for the game? Was it Paul Tierney? I forget. Remind me who it was.
I think it was Paul Tierney.
I thought it was Paul Tierney.
No, I think it was Michael Oliver, actually.
No, it wouldn't have been Michael Oliver. I think...
I'll find out. You keep speaking. I'll find out.
Cheers. Yeah, research. But no. In the game that Martinelli got the red card, I actually looked up the physical rule. There were 3 different ways for the rule to be interpreted under the refereeing kind of legislature, under their rule book, and none of the 3 ways involves giving 2 yellow cards from the same passage of play without either awarding the first before awarding the second, or without either kind of stopping play to caution a player. It was also for...
Yeah, it was Michael Oliver, by the way. I was right.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael Oliver. There we go then. I will also note that the other kind of technicality was the fact that during a single passage of play, a yellow card can only be awarded to one instance of a yellow card worthy foul unless play is stopped in the interim, and that was the issue because it wasn't. There was no whistle blown. There was only an advantage given. And frankly, we've seen players do things like what Martinelli did for the first instance, kind of that little shove on the sidelines, that were not given as yellow cards during the season. I'd say it was soft, even as a double yellow. But that was rough in general. I will say, though, that those 2 wins, this is when my roommate started recording my scream and swear counter during the games, because during both of them they occurred during classes of mine. I would watch the first half in class and then sprint home during halftime for the second half.
That
And
is
he would always be
peak that you have to do that because
Oh my God,
the games that we have, they're always
in the evening.
off.
I remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like it would be like 8, whatever time your time. But he'd always be studying Russian at that time because that was like right after his class let out. And he studies Russian, and he would like immediately open the notepad as soon as I would walk in and flip on the TV. Like, all right, here he goes again. And then just in general, I'd say the Brentford win was a good kind of benchmark to set, especially given our turnaround from the beginning of the season. One of us, I believe it might have been Rob, but I don't know fully, wrote at the time that like we comprehensively beat Brentford. Like it wasn't close. And the amount.
So was the Wolves game, to be fair, even though we scored a last minute goal.
Yes, but like the Wolves game we dominated, deserved to win by more. The second Wolves game we crushed. But like the Brentford game, I'd say, against playing a very similar side to the side that we played against them early in the season with just a couple of people kind of swapped in and out. Ben White was, of course, back and fighting fit and not struggling with an illness that turned out to be COVID, as he was in the first half of the season, to a side that was pretty much unchanged from the one that Brentford brought against us, and kind of how much that was different. That was something for me that I was kind of appreciative of because it showed growth within the team. I tweeted about that. I definitely remember. But yeah, that's probably going to be my last monologue of the pod. Aw, sad.
Painful. That is really painful. Yeah, I feel like I'm losing my composure on this. And the chat is, God. Yeah, this always happens. It turns into a bit of a shit show. We'll probably inevitably have about 15-20 minutes of absolute bullshit. I guess we'll just get into March, where we just laugh. This is too hard. It's hard to do this. And there's one that's not going to, because it's because Mac has to go in a minute. There's one that I had, which was Mac trying to steady the ship and trying to host, because he did that in the last one. But I don't think that's going to happen now. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen now.
Yeah, there have been a couple of times when I've been like, I almost did it at the beginning when we were waffling for like 20 minutes. I was going to be like, all right, can we get on with it?
I'll tell you what, next Drunkcast, I need to put anyone saying steady the ship. It is a common term in these.
I will say as well, Rob, I am actually proud of you for not ticking my last box, both you and Alfie. My last box for Rob was blowing your nose or coughing while unmuted, and you've managed to not do that yet. I'm very proud of you. You are quite ill. And in terms of Alfie, you've not said the word dreadful all podcast, which is a shock, frankly.
I didn't even know I say that.
You say it all
you
the
love
time.
That word.
You love the word dreadful, and you've not said it yet. So you know what? Kudos massively to both of you. It is 4:20, so I am, while I'm still speaking, I'm gonna head out. It's been a pleasure.
Was coming from Daniel.
I knew it was coming from Daniel. So, a ceremonial last chug to finish this one, and then I'm gonna mute my feed and wish you all an amazing rest of the show.
See you later, Mac. It's been a great journey.
We cannot believe Mac broke federal laws to be part of the show.
We
love you, Mac.
Hey, I'm 21. I'm not breaking federal laws. I'm good. See you in a minute.
Man's drinking in it. Man was genuinely drinking in a library. But yeah, the celebrity is gone. Rest in peace. You know what the funny thing is? When I put the split screen thing in... Okay, we're back once again. There was a technical error because of Mac leaving. But thank God he's gone, right? He's just such a twat and I love him. But it is the original trifecta again. So I can't remember what we're talking about, to be honest. This has really gone downhill more quickly than I thought it would. They're both loving it. Mac was the only one that was actually functioning. Obviously I was. But you two are just fucking useless. So I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to say the things that Mac didn't do, which were on my list. State something with absolute certainty that's just like factually wrong. He's not going to like that, but he does do it quite a lot in podcasts. It just makes me laugh. It's like it would be something like really like niche or like small, but it would be like saying,
Oh
like,
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
it'd be like saying a player definitely played or a stat or something, and it will just be wrong. Which is quite funny.
Who, Mac? Mac?
Yeah, Mac. And I also had attempts to steady the ship and become host, which he didn't really. He didn't get to.
he didn't do that.
He didn't stay long enough for that to become necessary.
Yeah.
You guys, did you have anything that he didn't do?
Sorry,
Go
go ahead,
Daniel.
Rob.
No.
Me? All right. I didn't have anything for Mac, but I had one for Alfie that I forgot to say. Calling it sorry, what?
You haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I forgot to say it. Calling this a shit show. You definitely did that like 7 times.
Yeah, I have to drink for that.
Yeah, I'll drink. I'm just drinking straight Magnum, which is quite bad. It's not very nice.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I had a few for Mac that didn't come. I had pronounces a player's name in a wacky way because he does that sometimes. Goes on a tangent about a very irrelevant footballer that just doesn't need to be spoken about for a long time. And then the last one was a really high-pitched laugh because he also does that sometimes.
What are the ones I had? I had knowledge of obscure player and mentioning school/Ohio in some way. I might have forgot to say about the school.
Yeah, he definitely mentioned Ohio.
That. Did you do that? Did you put that, Rob? He mentioned Kenyan, so I didn't put that. So me and Rob have to drink.
Oh, for the culture. That's for Mac. We love that. He didn't mention an obscure player. I should have tried to bait that out of him.
Yeah, this is such a disjointed podcast, but this happens in the Drunkcast at this point. We're gonna move on. We're gonna plow through this. So March, things were good in March generally. We kept our good run going. We looked like a really competent team. We beat Leicester. We beat Watford.
Alfie and I had birthdays.
Yep, I turned 21. Danny turned like 58 or something. And yeah, everything was good. We lost to Liverpool, which was a bit of a setback. I'm going to talk quickly about Lacazette, who sort of experienced his downfall in this season. He started, so he was really good for a period at linking play, at being a focal point, and he still managed shots. Like against Wolves, he had like 7 shots. It was in March where he basically stopped moving and he stopped becoming a goal threat completely, and he was just like, and he stopped being as good at his link-up play. It was like almost like, why are you there? So I'm going to ask Rob, do you think he was dropped a bit too late? And what do you think of Lacaz's downfall a little bit in that month?
Yeah, I remember when we were sort of on the hunt for a new striker in January. I wrote a piece and I was sort of just saying how I want the club to sign a striker that does everything Lacazette does and scores goals. So there definitely was a period where Lacazette was doing somewhat of a sufficient job up top. I think, unfortunately, eventually, as a striker, you need to be scoring goals as well. So that's what really contributed to his downfall. It was quite sad to see, really, because he became captain, sort of not officially, but he was always the man with the armband. Fuck's sake. And okay, sorry, listeners and watchers. Daniel's just put something in the chat. He's thrown me off. What a prick. But yeah, it was a shame to see Lacazette have a downfall at the sort of end of his tenure as an Arsenal player. Perhaps Eddie came in too late. Eddie, Daniel put that he has one of the bingo things for me. So that means Alfie has to drink, and imminently you'll see Alfie drink on camera and throwing his arms around. But yeah, perhaps we should have brought in Eddie earlier. I think Mikel Arteta said in a lot of his interviews that if there was one player that he's been harsh on this season, that it is Eddie Nketiah. But yeah, it was a real shame to see Lacazette sort of falling apart.
Yeah, it was. I loved him. Danny, no insight whatsoever. Danny, any thoughts on Lacazette and how he sort of declined throughout the season? And
It was
Rob, mute yourself.
It was actually really sad. All I heard was crunching, and then Rob laughed, and then he faded to mute. So no, it was actually really sad though, because Lacazette, much like a lot of other Arsenal supporters, he was one of my favorite players for the whole time that he was here. Not just down to the hype that was around when we signed him, but it was just what he brought personality-wise to the table. Unfortunately, it just, for whatever reason, it just ran out of gas like earlier than any top-level professional that I've like ever seen before. It was really bizarre. But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things with the Nketiah thing where I was looking at it like, why is Eddie not coming back in? Or coming in, I should say, because Laka should have been dropped a long, long time ago. Alfie just said in the chat, can we all stop laughing, please? And you know how that is, folks. When someone asks you to stop laughing, that it's impossible. So.
That was Rob, not me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Apologies, but yeah, it's
3 Alfie 11.
Or 3. Oh, I'm so confused. Rob named himself 3 Alfie 11, which just so happens to be Alfie's email, so it's extremely.
And Instagram, if you follow my Instagram. 3 Alfie 11. Yeah.
It's so confusing because now I think I'm talking to Alfie. And then there's also Alfie Culshaw, and he called me Scum. I have an interesting name that nobody needs to know.
Do you remember that Donny that commented on the episode 100? And he was like, oh, the alcohol made this episode really bad. Imagine what he's going to think about this episode. Fuck it, no.
You definitely already unsubscribed, let's be honest.
Like, that's the whole point of the fucking episode. Like, it's meant to start like a normal one, then it just transcends into utter terribleness.
This.
Much like an Arsenal season. I think, like, this, I think that this one is, this is a classique, as they would say, because, yeah, very good. Don't mention classique. It reminds me of Saliba and makes me feel like he's not going to come back. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see Guendouzi chatting shit in the media the other week, going like, oh, I think he'll come back to Marseille. I'll persuade him.
You're welcome for giving you a career, Guendouzi. When I was in London, when we beat Bournemouth 5-0, 5-1, I should say. Bournemouth. Bournemouth. Ow, I burned my mouth on the soup. He did like a terrible, terrible giveaway to make us concede our only goal of that game. So, Guendouzi, shut up.
Yeah. This is terrible. So the month ended with a narrow win over Villa. It was probably the pinnacle of the season. Not that obviously a win at Villa was the pinnacle of the season, but like it was the point where fans were most convinced of the project and Arteta's season. Chat. And everyone was sort of behind him. He went over to the away fans, and the new chant, "We've got Super Mick Arteta," started.
He knows exactly what we need.
And we're not going to finish the end bit because it's embarrassing given what happened.
Yeah, good point. Next season, Arsenal on the way to Champions League.
Hopefully. Things took a turn for the worst after that international break, and we had been really good up to that point. But the Palace game was sort of like, you think about the major games in the season, sort of significant matches. You think Everton, you think the Man City away game where we lost 5-0. You probably think the North London derby 3-1. Potentially Anfield away, City at home. and then Wolves at home, and then I'd say the next one is Palace away, where things really changed. I think we weren't quite the same. Although we had a run of 4 games where we won all 4 games, I don't think we were quite the same after this game. Because we lost Thomas Partey and Kieran Tierney, I think that's ultimately what the downfall comes down to. It comes down to losing 2 major pieces of our first team, and then the squad players just not quite being up to it. And eventually Eddie Nketiah came in, Cedric played Ozamir, Holding, El Neni, Tavares. But Rob, talk to me about that 3-game losing streak in the Palace game, which sort of started that, and we lost the players, and generally the lack of depth, which ultimately cost us.
Yeah, I remember the Palace game really vividly. I remember in the chat after the game, Charlie Maywood, I think, had gone to the match, and he was sort of saying, Champions League done. And you and I think, were both, me and you, Alfie, was sort of like, it's a bit reactionary. It's one game. All these teams have blips. We were bound to lose one of those sort of tough game, or not exactly tough games, but one of the easier games at one point. But then we lost 2 in a row, and that sort of was what was our Achilles heel throughout the season, as I've already spoken about. It was sort of the fact that that's impressive, Alfie. Go on, lad.
It's straight vodka. So,
oh yeah, good
drink water.
Anyway, that we just lose games in bunches. Once we lost one, it seemed to have a real bad sort of mental effect on players, and then we'd carry on and we'd lose another 2, and then eventually we'd pick up our form. But unfortunately,
we were quite streaky. I think Max said it earlier. We're very streaky this season.
So I think that these games obviously really, really hurt us. If we won one of them, we would have had top 4, which is absolutely so painful to say. Gut wrenching, absolutely. If we win at St Mary's, we've got top 4. If we win at home against Brighton, we get top 4. Games that we really, over the course of the season, and you look at all our results, they're games that we did win this season. We didn't really struggle. I remember listening to you guys' podcast when you sort of predicted the run-in, and you, Alfie, were just saying that we don't lose games at home. And we didn't really do it for the remainder of the season. The Brighton game was a real blip. Really disappointing. And unfortunately, it did end up costing us, because even though we did miraculously well to then win against Chelsea and United and really put ourselves back in contention, if we just perform adequately in those 3 games, it's ours.
Yeah, those 3 games were significant in our failure to qualify for top 4, but we turned it around to some extent before the eventual bottle job, if you can put it like that. We went and beat Chelsea, which was brilliant. I loved that game, even in isolation, without all the stuff surrounding it. Eddie Nketiah came in, scored twice. I remember walking home, rushing home to watch the match, and I was just outside my door, had it on my phone, and Nketiah bags, and I'm screaming, and my dad opens the door, and he's got the game on. We beat Chelsea. We then went at home to United, beat United, which was one of the best atmospheres of the season as well. And it looked like we were on the verge of securing top 4, which hadn't been a realistic target at the start of the season, and we were on the verge of doing it, which no one expected us to. Danny, do you want to speak a little bit about that run just before we eventually slipped up, and we went to Spurs needing a win to qualify for the Champions League, or just if we managed to win?
Honestly, man, I don't want to sound like one of those guys that be like, I kind of had a feeling that it was going to go poorly in the end, but I just feel like this Arsenal team, and I was having these thoughts then, I feel like we're the best when we don't really have all that much sort of pressure on us. Like in those games to Chelsea and United, people looked at us and were like,
do you think that's because of like youth to some extent?
absolutely. Yes, 100%. I mean, since our side is so young, when the pressure mounts, it's going to be really difficult for them, which is fully understandable. So I'm not taking anything away from them. That's just going to be a symptom of having a young team. And we talked about that throughout the season on various podcasts. Young players are going to make errors and they're going to feel pressure in big moments because they're not seasoned professionals quite yet. But I just had a feeling, man, of an impending doom where I was just like, well, yeah, we won these games, but there's no way that we're going to get anything against Tottenham. And boy, was I right. But yeah, it was just, I obviously got really excited, as a fan from those games because especially against Chelsea, it was like, oh, there's no way we're going to beat Chelsea. The fact that we pulled that out of the bag was absolutely incredible. United, yes, they're not good, frankly, but they always find a way to get a good result that would completely surprise everyone. So I wasn't confident for that one really either. So those got me excited, but I just always felt that little bit of anxiety going into the North London derby. I was like,
I felt
for a draw,
a lot of anxiety going into that game. I was shitting myself. Biggest North London derby in years, I think.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, Tottenham at that point had gotten quite good, too, if I remember correctly. I mean...
And paid the refs quite a lot of money, what?
Yeah, whoa. No, they don't have to pay him. They've got the England captain, Harry Kane. We need to figure out how to do that at Arsenal, man. We need to spend $700 million on Kane just to get, Champions League football again.
The scenes, if we wake up tomorrow, David Ornstein, Arsenal have paid £300 million for Harry Kane.
I mean, I
can't reject that, can they? They just can't.
No. And it wouldn't be smart from us, to be honest.
It wouldn't.
Just to be jerks.
It's like 30, isn't it? But shits and giggles. I could get on board with it.
I know it's a little off topic, but I just don't. I don't really understand Kane. I mean, I feel like, what are you still doing at Tottenham, bro? At 30 years old, I know that they're starting to look like they have a little bit of a project coming together, especially with Bissouma going there and Conte as the manager. But I don't know, man. I feel like if he was a true world-class striker, not doubting his abilities, unfortunately, he is very good. But I feel like if he just had that mentality in him, that dog in him, as football Twitter would say, he would have forced a move away to a team where he'd actually win trophies. But anyway, that's besides the point. I wasn't confident going into the Tottenham game, Alfie. And I think because of my sort of pessimistic attitude, while missing out on top four in the end by bottling it to, Tottenham and Newcastle, did really hurt my feelings. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it didn't. I sort of I don't know. I sort of saw it coming a little bit,
Yeah. It was the pinnacle of the season, not like the greatest moment. I mean, it was what everything came down to. Essentially, we went into that game knowing that we could secure top four at the expense of Tottenham at their new ground. The first game where we would have had our own fans there for men's football. I know the women's team had fans there. It would have been a great moment. We might have been talking about this podcast in very different terms, but unfortunately, everything went wrong in that game. Rob Holding lost his head. We had a very dodgy penalty decision go against us. It was very, very soft. Like a lot of the things that went against us this season, we seem to lose out on a lot of the 50-50s. When it's 50-50s, as you'd expect from the name 50-50s, you get roughly 50% of the things that are sort of grey area 50-50s, but it felt like we lost out on so many of them this season, and that was one of them. We can't complain about the Rob Holding red card. It was definitely a red card, in my opinion. I know some people managed to, and I do think there's more legs on that argument than some people suggest, but I still think it was a red card. I think the penalty was dodgy, and then we lost that game, and it was bad, and then it was still in our hands, and we went to Newcastle, and it was probably worse. I found that game extremely frustrating because we had Newcastle pressing us. Newcastle are not that good a team, and they weren't at that point. They probably will be next season when they've signed like 7 players or something. But at that point, they were like a good. They'd improved massively. They were like almost mid-table, but they were pressing us, and we just decided to completely abandon all our principles. The players are extremely nervous, and I think at the end of the day, although probably the main factor was that we lost some key players and our squad depth just wasn't good enough. I think some of it, like the squad that we put out, was still good enough to win against Newcastle and obviously beat Everton. I think it was some soft factors came into play, and because like you talk about tactical things, but all the tactical things that Arteta would implement just weren't there because the players looked like they were suffering from lack of confidence and anxiety, because I think they really, really wanted it. And yeah, that was really disappointing. Rob, any words on the Newcastle game and the way we ended the season in general?
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
But I've pretty much finished this Magnum, and it's been horrible.
Oh wow! Okay, congratulations. Yeah, it was really difficult to watch.
So
that match.
Sarcastic. That congratulations.
just in the way that we paid so much respect to Newcastle and made them look so good. It was like, as you kept saying after the game, Alfie, it wasn't Liverpool or Man City. It was Newcastle. We literally just had to play through their press with a bit of confidence. 3 weeks, not 3 weeks, I don't know, 2 months earlier, we win that game without question. You have Thomas Partey there, he bypasses that. And it was a good Newcastle midfield as well, don't get me wrong. I think it was Bruno Guimaraes, Joelinton, and
Shelvey.
Was it Shelvey on the night? Okay. Yeah, and they did well. They did well. They really did suffocate us. But the Arsenal team, which you were describing towards the earlier on in the season, that would sort of have that title-winning form, they would have just been like, okay, get around it, get the ball to our forward areas, and then we could have caused damage. But that wasn't the case. Unfortunately, we didn't have all our high caliber players on the pitch. Gabriel and Ben White were half fit. Unfortunately, we had to withdraw Tomiyasu pretty early on. Sort of story of our season. Thomas Partey obviously wasn't there. And yeah, these basically all the problems which caused us to be in a battle for top 4 rather than have it very secure, sort of came and showed themselves against Newcastle. And for that reason, yeah, was unfortunately a very sad end to the season. Of course, we had an emphatic victory on the final day against Everton at home, but the story was already written then, and it was a sad end to what was a really, really fun season to witness as an Arsenal fan.
Can I just say, I think what made that even more sad, really, I think that's a good way to sum it up in a really simple word, that loss to Newcastle, was the fact that against Tottenham won. You know, we lost, obviously, that's how it works. But against Newcastle, yes, Newcastle were decent, but I think if this makes sense, if you're following what I'm saying, I feel like we lost that match more than they won that match. You know, it was all down to us that we failed to get a victory in that fixture that we really probably should have won given the quality. I don't care if we had injuries, we still should have been able to easily win that game. And what rubbed salt in the wounds even more was the fact that a guy that we probably should have been all the way after in January is the guy that sealed it for Newcastle. I mean, let's not forget about that. That's a little callback to the midfield chat we were having earlier. We probably should have been completely after Bruno. We've seen since he's signed for Newcastle that he is a truly fantastic player. And he just, got that second goal that really that twisted the knife. And that Newcastle one, man, was probably one of the most painful losses I've seen Arsenal have in a really long time. Rob is going for a little break, and it just felt in his
fuck, I'm losing my words now. The the casualness of this podcast can mean Rob just walks off
I love that.
mid Danny monologue. But continue. I'm enjoying this monologue.
Of course, yeah, no, I totally okay, because I know he knows what I'm going to say, because we speak telepathically, Rob and I. But I'm actually, what's Alfie's got something. What was that?
Irish whiskey. I thought I had it. So I was like, might as well.
A little bit of Irish whiskey, well done on you. Very good.
That's actually a decent Irish accent
Cheers,
for an American.
Thank you.
Actually, wait, do it again.
What should I say? What's a really Irish thing to say? You know, as a Brit.
Just keep saying whatever you were saying about Arsenal in an Irish accent.
Right, so what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. What the hell was I saying? Seriously, what the hell was I saying?
I don't remember, but the accent is terrible. So
yeah, well, whatever. I lost it. But anyway, yeah, Irish fans back home are like, "What? No, it's not. That's terrible. That's dreadful." But
wait, did Andrew join the podcast?
You are the first blog ever on Patreon. No, seriously, what the heck was I saying? Shit. Whatever. It wasn't that important then. But just, I know. So the fact that we had a chance to get top 4 at the end of the season, and what's that one commentator?
This is such a shit show now. We've completely lost it, but we're going to keep going because
I think Alfie, I think Arsenal for the first time in quite a long time had at the end of the season they were chasing something, and it was just absolutely devastating that they lost a match that they shouldn't have. Come when the pressure came on, they bottled it, and that's what made it all the more devastating for the Gunners. That was good. Come on.
The Gunners.
The Gunners. It wasn't terrible, to be fair. But we beat Everton 5-1, so who's the real title winners, let's be honest. It's basically us.
That was a weird game because we all said it in the little group chat we had. It felt like a preseason friendly. It was actually kind of nice because we all knew deep down that we were not going to get the top 4 because Tottenham were not going to lose to that terrible Norwich. Not Norwich. Apparently the W silent. But none of us actually thought we'd make top 4, so it was just kind of nice to just batter Everton.
Yeah. Should we go around the room and say our favourite moment so we can end on a high?
We should, but I just want to point out the Everton game, for me, one of the best moments personally as a match-going fan of the season. I went with my girlfriend, which was very nice, and she enjoyed it. But also I got to meet, bun her off. I got to meet Andrew Arsblog and the Arsenal Vision boys, which is a massive moment for me. I love meeting them; they were very nice, and it just sort of rounded off a really nice season. Even though the ultimate outcome was disappointing, not based on the expectations we had at the start of the season, but based on where we found ourselves at one point. It was just a really nice season to follow Arsenal. It was just much nicer compared to previous seasons when I've been a match-going fan. But anyway, yeah. What did you want to do, Rob? I can't remember. I'm so jealous you're still drinking beer. And I've got this Irish whiskey.
Well, I was going to suggest that we do all of our favourite moments from the season. I'm happy to start with this one. I'm going to go, for me, just because I was at the game, the 2-0 win over West Ham. And then after the match, they had the Saka and Smith Rowe song blowing around the Emirates. And it just all those sort of occasions where we had that sort of blowing out after the game. And then after that, I thought towards the end of the season when we had the Louis Dunford song playing before the games, I thought that was a really nice touch. Really like those moments, just sort of epitomise the unity at the club at the moment. So yeah, for me, it's just sort of the fan unity would be my favourite aspect of the season.
I guess I'll go.
Go.
Okay. I have two because I can't nail it down to one because one's sort of like an on the pitch thing, like one's a result, and then the other's a thing to do with us that we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. On the pitch, I love beating Manchester United 3-1, and I absolutely love that Granit Xhaka uh, thunderbolt. I mean, what a story with Granit Xhaka. It just sounds like a feature piece you would write. I mean, from throwing the armband down in a heap of frustration to scoring a goal against Manchester United to give his side hope in the race for a top four. It just was such a beautiful moment. And I just at about the same time, Xhaka did the player tribune. I think that's who it is, right? Where like he kind of talked about the whole situation and everything. So I really like that part because I think we as fans of professional sport kind of forget sometimes that players are humans too, and with the abuse that Xhaka was getting, and more like Xhaka's family was getting. I'm not saying his reaction was totally justified, but I do understand where he was coming from. Off the pitch, that has to do with WLYA Productions, We Love You Arsenal Productions. How cool was it to see Arsenal Football Club posting a video of Mac Johnson, our very own, at his first time? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was just so surreal because, I mean, like, we don't do all of this for attention. Some of us light sparklers in the middle of podcasts because we like attention. But, I mean, it just felt so good to, get one of our guys on the official Arsenal page. And I remember Mac and, all of the writers are like my brothers and sisters. So I want to protect them. And I remember I saw a bunch of people calling him cringy and stuff. And I just wanted to freaking go and beat the shit out of them because they were talking about my friend like that. But away from that, most everybody was incredibly nice. And it was so cool that Arsenal shared that. So that is probably far and away my favorite moment. But on the pitch, beating Manchester United, Xhaka Thunderbolt.
Yeah. So I was just eating a fig roll. Yeah. I don't know why I'm drinking this Irish whiskey. It's fucking revolting. Yeah, my favourite moment. What was it? Oh god. I'll probably say, to me, the Leeds game. I really like the Leeds game because second last game I went to, and it was sort of when we won it, it put us on the cusp of top four, and it was probably the highest we felt as Arsenal fans for a while. At the end of that game, and like very early on when we had 2-0 up and they went down 10 men, we were like, we're winning this game. Obviously, they almost clawed it back, but we were like, it was such a good atmosphere after we went 2-0 up, and it was like, we are finishing top four at this point. And it was like it was pretty much the pinnacle of the season for me, given the situation we were in. We had the Louis Dunford song before the game, The Angel, and after the game, which was really nice, and it felt like the most unity we've had. And then in the pub after, and the Tollington, it was very nice. So I'll probably put that up there. There were obviously great other moments like Mac being there, me returning to the Emirates with the Norwich game with Mac, and also the Spurs.
Me
the Spurs
returning.
I don't really like. I mean, just like personally returning to the Emirates. I don't
We'll say it like that then.
Okay, not me returning. Like I didn't make the. I mean, like for me personally, when I returned to the Emirates, it was a great moment because like it was. Oh, I haven't been here for ages, so it's brilliant. I'm not saying the best moment for us.
my dude Alfie thought the North London forever was for him.
Oh, yeah. I don't mean me turning up at the Emirates was the greatest moment for this club this season. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, it probably was, let's be honest. If you got my charisma in the stands, you're likely to do well. And we did. I'm trying to think of a game I saw us lose this season. City. That was it. That was the only game I went to that we lost.
Did you not go to Chelsea?
No, I would have gone to Chelsea, but I was quarantining because I'd just come back from Spain.
You went to the
Mallorca.
pre-season one though, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to the pre-season one.
Yeah, so you did see us lose. Lying.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about. No, I saw us lose
Me
on
returning. Like the first time fans were back, they fucking lost, and you were there.
No,
Yeah.
it was pre-seasons. This doesn't count. It doesn't count.
It does.
The first time I properly returned when it was 60,000. It was Norwich at home with Mac. No, I'd say one of the best moments actually was, aside from the Leeds game, the Spurs game. Going back to that Spurs game, the atmosphere was unreal. I only bought, so I didn't have normally I get a spare ticket from my dad, but didn't have one for that game. So I bought it on Ticket Exchange extremely late, and I had to leave my house like 5 minutes after I bought it in Brighton to get there. The atmosphere was unreal. It was my Caribbean mate Garav's first Premier League game, and he loved it, and it was great. I'll give that. I'll hand it back to whoever wants the mic at this point.
I think this is probably a good time now to draw it to a close. How long has this been? Like 74 hours and 36 minutes? I mean, it's been forever, dude.
You have to have a bit of waffle in these podcasts, don't you?
God, I could go for a waffle right now.
I could. I was going to say, I would love a waffle.
Yeah.
What's your chosen topping?
I'm a bit of a traditionalist in some ways. I quite like just standard maple syrup or whatever you want to call it. But also,
you chucking a bit of bacon on there as well, or is that?
That'll sometimes happen. Sometimes things get kind of wacky over here, and I love the salty sweet combination. One of my favorites. We do this. We have this. Have you guys heard of Waffle House?
Yeah,
it's very American. Probably the most American place ever created. But they have this one that's just delightful, and it's a kind of soggy waffle, but it's okay because you pay like $3 for it. And they put like chocolate chips on it that are peanut butter. Woo-wee! It's really good. Good stuff. I like that too.
How does the podcast come to this? How? This is...
We went from waffling to waffling about waffles.
I was going to say, in the famous words of Danny in like the second Drunkcast, should we say the things we didn't have?
Wow, that does sound like
we should do that.
Something I should say.
You remember you said that, and me and Rob were like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" It was so vague. I can listen to that because it's fucking hilarious. I think it's episode 46. Anyway, you know what I mean. The things that didn't come up. I have so many actually. So let me go first because the main man. Danny makes comment that could verge us on being cancelled. Could put us on the verge.
I'm proud of myself for not doing that, by the way.
You've done it in every other one, so I put that again. You didn't do it. I also had reference to players' looks, which you didn't do, which is a big shame. Makes fun.
I did that in the YouTube video. That's what it was.
True. Makes fun of, disses or references.
Yeah, I had players as well.
Yeah, makes fun of or disses America/Florida, which you didn't do. Makes huge generalization about something or someone or a group of people. Downplays his intelligence about stuff, football or stats, which he didn't do, which you always do, but you didn't do. So I've actually missed some tap-ins there.
Actually, I've got it. I'm pretty sure I downplayed my own intelligence like 650 times.
Well then, Rob, drink.
He's like, with pleasure.
Rob things I had size of me and Danny's antics. I had gets drunk. Which, are you drunk, Rob?
I'm not battered, but I'm not sober. I'm not like a previous Drunkcast, but I would say perhaps.
That means drink.
I wouldn't be able to drive right now.
That means drink for me and Danny. Basically.
It does.
I'll get one more from the fridge. Hold on.
Do you have any more, Alfie, on your list? Oh,
I do.
poor boy.
Sorry.
Oh, 3 Alfie 11. What a guy. Look at him. Getting that water down him.
Fucking hell.
Fucking hell.
He's an impressive human.
I had throws up for Rob, and I had
That's
gets
bold.
drunk. So yeah, that was all mine. You guys go ahead.
Okay, it's my turn next. So I only had 2 left for each of you, actually. I had Alfie referring to FB Ref, which he unfortunately didn't. We didn't go into much like player analysis. And we had him sorting out his hair on air, sort of like playing around with it. He likes to do that. And then Daniel, we had increases in volume as the show goes on. And I haven't noticed that he has this time, which is impressive. And then the same comments on a player's appearance.
Not bad, not bad. So you only missed 4. Alfie, you missed a lot.
Yeah. I missed some
Because he's
tap-ins
shit.
though.
did.
Shut up. I missed some tap-ins. Like they weren't like. Let's be honest. We do 10 podcasts of these, and at least like 7 of them, I'd be getting like a high conversion rate. But you guys just weren't yourselves. Unfortunately, something's been up or something. I don't know.
Or you've changed, Alfie, maybe. Maybe that's it.
I did all of these on the previous podcasts, and they came to fruition. So
you're like Arsene Wenger at the end of his reign. You just wouldn't change your approach, and you've reaped
maybe. I'll take
a great analogy.
Comparisons. It is a great analogy, but I'll take Arsene Wenger comparisons all day of the week.
But that means you're past it now, mate.
I don't care.
You're going to be at Soccer Aid in a few years.
He's still.
What's the blogging equivalent of Soccer Aid?
Probably like, I don't know.
We love you, Arsenal Productions.
You're still in like
academy. We're like the bottom level.
In like 10 years, you're still chief editor of We Love You Arsenal, non-paid, and that's your only job.
Nice. It's probably like
messaging Alan Riley. Where's your piece, Alan?
It's probably like being the sub editor of News Now or something like that, which is pretty depressing at that age.
Yeah, so anyway, here's mine. Here's the final highlight, 3rd of 4 of the variety pack. Pineapple Tangerine. The bright citrus qualities of our iconic India Pale Ale are accentuated in this innovative iteration through the addition of pineapple and tangerine, creating an intensity of flavor, yet maintaining high-analyse, balanced profile. I see him cackling in the background, so it was hard to read. And also, I'm stupid, so I can't read very well.
Quality.
So for Alfie, I had...
Wait. I wanted to read out the Asahi description, considering you always have so much fun with your Jarlai. Asahi Super Dry is brewed with precision to very high quality standards under the supervision of Japanese master brewers. Our advanced Our advanced brewing techniques deliver a dry, crisp taste and quick, clean finish. We call it Karakuchi taste. Wow. That's all I have to say.
That was quite mesmeric. I loved it.
Good. I like that word, mesmeric.
It's got to be my turn. This is the West Cork cask collection of single malt Irish whiskey. So let's read this if I can.
Just gonna say, like, don't drink this, you'll die.
Oh, it's fucking awful. Fucking hell. It's so small. Like, patiently matured in fast fill bourbon casks and finished in Quinta de Bora port casks. Non-chilled filter and added colour. That shouldn't be the right one. And that says the same thing. Yeah. We didn't.
I got Alfie for the audio listeners. I don't know if anyone's listening to this audibly anymore, but I got a picture of Alfie reading the tiny text on his Irish whiskey. Let me say my things I missed already. For Alfie, I missed, I'm not sure I agree. I know you didn't agree with some of the stuff we said, but I felt like it was too cheap to be like, oh, Alfie's disagreeing, because that's just how a podcast works, you know? I had him mentioning Arscast, which I don't think he did. Maybe I missed it. Okay. And then I had him calling Rob rich, which I'm really surprised that he didn't do that.
Wow.
Country mansion.
Yeah. And then for Rob, I had him mentioning Arscast, and I don't think he did. And then he
probably mentioned Andrew.
Oh, I guess Alfie technically didn't mention Andrew.
Drink, boy.
Who's drinking?
You.
Oh.
And then
shame.
For Rob, I had him mentioning Arscast, and then I had him saying, for fuck's sake. I thought that was out of there.
For fuck's sake.
That's how you say it. And then for Mac, I had 3 written down, and I actually got 2 or 3, but the one I missed out on was somehow knowledge of an obscure player, but I think it's just because we didn't really mention any. Anyway, we should draw this to a close. I want to get off. I got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's your job. So
Alfie looks like he's about to sing into his mic.
North London forever. Whatever the weather.
Oh, I thought it said except for the weather.
Will if you never. This might have to be cut out.
Yeah,
this can't be on the internet forever.
I can't wait till my future employers just pull up some of these clips and they're just so Rob, what was the thought process here?
To be fair, it's just 2 hours 30 or something.
Why, Rob, did you think that putting on your CV that you were on a podcast which took part in, biannual Drunkcasts would be a good idea? And I'd reply...
You link the Spotify, but you do the most recent episode, which will be a random sort of normal episode, not this shit. And they'll never just search for this shit. It just won't happen.
Yeah, because the big thing is they won't even listen to the one you attach either. They'll be like, oh, nice.
Yeah, they probably won't.
Oh, he does a podcast? That's so cool. He's so modern and down with the kids. It's okay that he's white and he's rich. We'll give him the job anyway.
These days, it's more like, he does a podcast. So does every human being ever born, So
it's true. You know what I got on my podcasting module at uni? I got 1 off 70, 1 off a first, so 69. So, yeah. I thought I'd be
nothing wrong with 69, eh?
Yeah, I thought I'd get a 70, but obviously didn't transpire. So I might as well retire from podcasting if I'm supposedly a podcast expert and I couldn't get a first. Oh my god.
That was a double decker. Anyway, enough of this. I want to get off and hang out with my.
Making it. We're not making it.
Highlight is powerful. Anyway,
we're not making out the hood.
Very true. We're not. All right. Anyway, enough of that.
London.
All right. Alfie, marketing opportunity of a lifetime.
We love your Arsenal, Cody K, and we love your Arsenal YouTube channel, which you're going to be on already, probably.
Probably. All right, Bert. Same thing, my friend.
I will promote All or Nothing Arsenal. By the time this video exports, look at Alfie shaking his head. By the time this video exports, it'll probably be out. So yeah, Watch out for that from Amazon. And all the wonderful video footage released by the We Love You Arsenal YouTube channel and weloveyouarsenal.co.uk and the We Love You Arsenal the Instagram and my Twitter and Daniel's Twitter and Alfie's Twitter and Mac's Twitter and all the Twitters. Just Twitter. I plug Twitter.
And our TikTok.
Yeah, we might have a TikTok. Who knows?
We don't have a TikTok. We will never have a TikTok. I promise you that. We will never venture onto that app, which I still don't have, by the way. I've still not touched it.
Well done, you. You and your.
Well, the clock is tick-tocking, and I'm trying to get off here. I guess I will plug. What the heck would I plug? I didn't think of anything. I guess it's just plug all of our content, man. Go check it out. Fun stuff. Good content. We're great content creators. It's time to get off. We appreciate you tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment, but don't say anything mean because we can't handle it because we're all weak. Only say positive things. Leave a review on Spotify.
And if you think it got worse after we started drinking, you're right.
Well said. Well said. And yeah, share it with all your cool uncles, as we rarely say, even though I want it to be a thing we say. All right. I hope you enjoyed this 2.5 hour train wreck.
The song is The Angel by Louis Dunford, if you're on Spotify, which you're probably not. Right. Bye.